Okay. So, an admission. I forgot to go live. I've been talking to you all for 11 minutes and none of you could hear me because none of you were there. I have showed answers and questions and it's been brilliant. It's been really interesting and none of you could hear me. I'm so sorry that you've been sitting there waiting. I feel very stupid, but these things happen. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch and I'm going to show you what we're going to be talking about today is solving equations. I'm going to quickly delete lots of stuff and we will start again and I will repeat lots of stuff I've said already that no one has heard. I'm sure you can all have a good old laugh at Mr. Harris in the chat at how silly he's been, and at least you didn't have to sit through me saying this a second time. So if I show you this, you should now be able to see yesterday's answers to the question. So if you want to later, come back, pause at this point here, make a note of what time it is in it, and you can then see the answers to yesterday's questions. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about solving equations today. Solving equations is a topic which sometimes confuses people and it gets people worried. It shouldn't. It is a step-by-step process. It is a process that if we work together and we work one thing at a time, I will be able to help you to get quite advanced at solving equations. Now, some of you might already think you're quite advanced. Please don't use the chat to tell people how wonderful you are, but try and just watch it. And if you're learning something brilliant, if not, then I will try and helpfully help you out and make it a bit more advanced. There's a worksheet that has now been changed at the bottom. Someone pointed out they had the wrong link. You might need to refresh your screen to see what's going on. So what I'd like you to do is, at the end of the video, have a go at those questions up to the level where you want. It gets progressively harder as you go down. Now, just before we start, I'd just like to let you know, I had a bit of an incident this morning, unfortunately. I was up later last night than my wife, and I'd been pottering around doing some bits downstairs. And so I went off to bed, and she went down this morning. And she said to me, "Paul!" So I got summoned downstairs, and she says, "What's this?" And around all of our lounge, I'd put like some ancient relics, and some black curtains, and some candles, and in the middle I'd got an evil pentagram, and lots of flames. She said, "Paul." I said, "What?" She said, "I said, could you please sanitize the downstairs, not satanize the downstairs." I'll get it right eventually. Anyway, let's do some algebra. Let's do some solving equations. Remember, solving equations is just a bit of algebra, so I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible for as many people as possible. To do so, we're going to start with one-step equations. One-step equations. I still can't get over the fact that I was broadcasting for 11 minutes and there wasn't actually broadcasting. Brilliant. That's one I'll have to tell all my friends about. In the one-step equations, if you've got something like 4x equals 36. Now, there'll be some people here who would say, "I don't need to do anything special here. I do all this in my brain." And you might do all of this in your brain, but there is a very good reason why I try and get you to do it not just in your brain. And it's not just because I'm evil. Actually, this is me, so it needs to have a couple of bits of hair. Actually, you need to make sure that you have a method, because some of you here will be hoping to eventually do higher GCSE or A-level. Solving equations is a step-by-step process where the first 2 or 3 levels you can do in your head. But then when you get to a harder level, you can't. I can't. And I've been doing maths for 555 years. So if I teach you the step-by-step approach, hopefully, if you make sure you do it, even though your brain can tell you the answer, it will allow you to do some really complicated questions. Now, along the way, we're going to use something that you used at primary school, BIDMAS. Now, some of you at primary school or year 7 will have called it bad maths or bed maths or bod maths. I don't think there's a bud maths. I don't know why. You's probably going to feel left out. Now, along the way, that means brackets, little powers, divide, multiply, add, subtract. What you have to remember is that solving equations means we're undoing. We are undoing what has happened. So therefore, we need to always do BIDMAS backwards. So we're starting off undoing things. That will become important once we get to 2-step. But for now, we're looking at 1-step. And I will always keep my equals in line. So I am underneath there going to divide by 4 because it's the opposite or the inverse function to times 4. So I do the same on this side. Some of you have already probably got that the answer was 9. Please don't use the chat to try and tell everyone that you've already got it or that you're wonderful. I'm hoping that everyone's going to have a chance to do these themselves. There's other ways of doing 1-step equations. We've got add x plus 5 equals 21. So x be minus 5 and minus 5 x equals 16. We can even have x over 8 is equal to 2. And this just means divide. It's the algebra way of writing divide. So the opposite of that is to times by 2, and times by 8, sorry, and times by 8. So we end up with x is equal to 16. Now, I know you've probably noticed I've got 2 answers here where the answer is 16. We don't want other numbers getting left out. We don't want 5 being like, you never use me as an answer. I really wanted to be an answer, and you always use 16, and that's not fair. So I need to try and balance out what the answers to the different questions are. I'll do my best. Hopefully you're quite comfortable with the 1-step, because we're ready to go to 2-step. So I'm going to move down, and 2-step equations are going to get their own colour. Now the reason we call them 2-step equations is as follows. If I do 2x plus 1 equals 11, I'm going to use my BIDMAS backwards, which we talked about up here. So up here I mentioned BIDMAS backwards. We're going to get rid of the plus before we can do the times. So underneath the plus, we're going to do minus 1 and minus 1. So 2x equals 10. Then we are going to divide by 2. And we have to do it to both sides. Notice my equals are still in line. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And this is what makes this back to x. And the reason we call it a 2-step equation is because we used 2 steps to get there. There were 2 operations we needed to do. We are eventually going to go on to 3-step equations. But I just wanted to show you, if any of you have got this software at home, this is called OneNote 365. I don't know if any of your parents have got it. It's quite expensive, but if they've got a package already at home, just to show you how fantastic this is. It's got a little bit of magic in it. If I write 3x minus 5 equals 13, and then I click on this button here, and I select all the things I just wrote. And it goes, oh, I found that you've written something. And I click maths. And it goes, oh, it doesn't like my writing. So I'm going to go back, but instead, I'm going to this time, just to make it recognise it. Sometimes it does, but it always seems to recognise it if I write it as an x minus 5 equals 13. Now if I highlight it all, the annoying thing is when I did this the first time, it worked fine. 3x minus 5. Can you see how it spotted what I want it to do? I've got 2 choices. I can go fix it. I can go ink to maths, and it turns it into a maths for me. I can even write it out, and it will turn it straight into maths. I might want to make it bigger, and I can do that by changing the font size up to 20, so you can all see it nice and clearly. But the other thing it can do is solve. And it can show me my steps. And I drag them over here. And it will show me all the steps for it. And you can see It's got a clear explanation. Let's see how I would have done it without the computer doing it for me. 3x minus 5 equals 13. I can add 5 to both sides. And 3x equals 18. Add 5 to both sides. It's telling me to do the same things that I already was going to do. Add 13 and 5 to get 18. Divide both sides by 3. Well, that's what I would have done actually, computer. I know better than you. I'm getting a bit angry with computer. I probably shouldn't be. And they've got the answer 6 as well. And you can see it's 2 steps. So these are very useful. This software is very useful for two-step equations. I'm just going to hide this for a second to give us a bit more space. But we can see how we can possibly go about doing two-step equations. Now, in the worksheet I've linked below, which is now should be the correct link, it progresses gradually downwards. So hopefully you can do the first questions if you wanted to. If you're here from year 5, 6, 7, then you can possibly have a go at the earlier questions, but maybe not go all the way to the end. Because I've also got some that go later onto some double-sided ones and some ones with brackets, which I will talk about now. Hopefully it's all making sense. I'm obviously going to help you. If you have any questions, I will say I'll do my best to answer them. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone who's in the chat. They'll let me know if there's any problems. We're now going to go on to, we've done two-step, we've done three-step. It makes sense, I think. We've done two-step, we've done one-step. Makes sense to try three-step equations. And so for three-step equations, we need something where there's going to be 3 things happening. And there's 2 types I'm going to show you. One involves brackets. For example, 4 lots of 2x. I don't like doing x's like that, but I'm doing it for a specific reason. Plus 1 equals, and I'm going to do this on purpose. I'm going to make it so it's not going to be a nice number. Because I am going to multiply that and that first. So my first stage, keep the equals in line, is 4 lots of 2x, which I make 8x. Plus 4 lots of 1 is 4. Not 8x plus 1, 8x plus 4. One good way of thinking about this is if you imagine we go algebra shopping. Now I know we're not allowed to go shopping at the moment, but if we get to sneak it, once it's all over, we can all go to the algebra shops. And we get 4 baskets, and in each of our 4 baskets, we're going to put 2x, or 2 eggs. Shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. Even I'm ashamed of that. And 1, 1, 1, and that equals 8x plus 4. That's why we end up getting 8x plus 4. So first step, 17 stays the same, but the bracket has gone. Now we do it just like normal. Take away 4, take away 4, 8x equals 13. Uh-oh, when I go to divide by 8, it's not a nice number. Oh, I must have ruined algebra. Actually, it's okay. They don't need to be nice numbers. You are allowed to just put 13 over 8 as your final answer. Your calculator would give you a different number. In this case, you could say that you did it in your calculator and your calculator gave you 1.675. I want to say 675 and I'm worried 625. I'm going to do it on my calculator just to be sure. Because normally, if I didn't have a live stream, I would be very confident about that. But it was 625. Okay. But I don't need you to put the decimal down. You can go straight and leave it as that fraction, and that is full marks. So you can have 3 ticks for that because it's a 3-step equation. And in the worksheet that's at the bottom, there are some ones with brackets, which are called 3-step equations. Obviously, if you've got the software, then this is where it comes into its own. Because I could do this. The other way of doing 3-step equations is when there's x's on both sides. For example, 6x plus 2 is equal to 2x plus 18. I've got this, and let's see if it likes it or if I have to use different x's. It might like it, in which case I'm a winner. Click maths. Oh, it doesn't like the second x. Let's just get rid of that second x and swap it with a horrible x that I hate. Now let's see if it recognises my handwriting. And click maths. And now it does. Oh, but I missed out the x. I'll get there eventually. So we've got 6x plus 2 equals 2x. Now, again, we can solve it for x. And show our steps. Drag them over here. And we have the steps for how to solve it. So it can help us again. It says that the first thing you do, if I drag this out the way, I'm going to move this out up here so you can see they're the steps it tells us to do. It says subtract 2. Well, this is the same start as we would have done with the 1 step and the 2 step. Start by taking away 2 from both sides. Oh, wait a minute. It doesn't say 2. It says 2x. And this is because the new bit is we're going to take away the smallest amount of x. I've got 6 x's and 2 x's. I'm going to take the smallest amount of x away from both sides, giving me nothing here and 4x here. And then I'm going to take away 2 from both sides. So 4x is equal to 16. And finally divide by 4 so that x equals to 4. Okay. Makes sense to people, hopefully. Okay. So this is how we do 3-step equations. 1, 2, 3. Anytime you've got x's on both sides, you take the smallest one. But there might be minuses. What do we do with the minuses, sir? Well, never fear, Mr. Harris is here. 7x plus 5 is equal to 2x plus 1. If we do everything we've been told to do, we take 2x away from both sides, 5x plus 5 equals 1. The next step takes 5 away from 1. So we end up with minus 4. Don't be scared by this. Just divide by 5 like you normally would, and x is going to equal minus 4/5. I hope that's been useful for you. It's just trying to introduce solving equations and making sure there's something here from year 7 all the way up to year 11. If you're trying to work out your solving equations, this should be useful. Remember, if you do have access to this OneNote, it's very useful for helping you learn. But there are worksheets, and again, I'll show the answers tomorrow, but I'll also try and post them in the comments to the video itself. Thank you for those people who stuck with me for the first 10 minutes when nothing happened. I'm sure we lost some people, but thank you for those people who stayed around. Once again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay in the chat answering any questions. If there's any part of it you weren't clear on, more than happy to explain. So, thank you for joining me. Sorry for being an absolute moron. I would love to promise it won't happen again, but sadly, I have very little faith that I'm that clever. Thank you very much. I will see you later.